Welcome in. I'm the Primetime Feline. I'm hyped for this one. I'll be discussing my experience attending Hitman, a Sunday with Bret Hart presented by Oceanic Pro Wrestling and Starrcast. First, due to this being my first pro wrestling video, before I get into how I became a fan of Bret's or the event itself, I must inform you, the very first time I ever saw pro wrestling, I knew it was a work. Because I'd seen boxing before and I could recognize that it wasn't genuine combat. And when people told me it wasn't real, I took it as an insult to my intelligence that they thought that I believed it to be a legitimate combat sport. I've been smart to the business since I was 7 years old, and I've never heard anyone else say that they never had to be told wrestling wasn't real, like I never had to be told wrestling wasn't real. I was introduced to Bret in WCW. I was 8 years old when I saw his documentary Wrestling with Shadows, which permanently altered my perspective of the business, and it also inspired me to rent WWF tapes from the video store just to see more of the Hitman's matches. I was able to convince a family member to purchase one single WCW pay-per-view, which was Mayhem, a tape I rewatched Bret become WCW heavyweight champion on over 1,000 times. No cap. Shout out Uncle Steve for that one. I really appreciate it. It was an awesome memory. For me, this was a once in a lifetime opportunity to see an idol of mine, and I was so excited. I arrived early, and when doors opened, I found out that a meet and greet took place prior to the event at a different venue, which was not advertised on their webpage for the event or the graphic for the event. You'd assume if the star of the event was doing a meet and greet, it would be advertised on either the webpage for the event or the graphic for the event. However, what was advertised on the graphic for the event was TBA from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m., which did not go ahead with no announcement of it not going ahead. Venue-wise, it was nice and adequate for the event. The seats I purchased appeared to be in the 5th row on the floor plan. However, they were actually about a dozen or more rows back, and I'm not sure how that happened. SoCal Val hosted the event. Bret's music was a little hard to hear when he came out, and it was announced that due to making time for more fan questions, that we will only be watching highlights of Bret's match with Owen and not the whole thing as advertised. The website said attendees have the opportunity to watch the match alongside the man himself, gaining a deeper understanding of the in-ring psychology and artistry that set Bret Hart apart. You don't learn psychology from highlights. Psychology is explaining the whens and the whys of the happenings inside the squared circle. When the clips go from Bret, having his leg worked by Owen, and the next clip, Bret's got Owen in a sleeper hold, you can't work psychology out from that or understand it. And although Bret spoke on the match, it was not explaining the art or adding any insight into his in-ring psychology as advertised. Also advertised was to make the day even more special, special guests may make appearances. So it's plural on the guests, and it says may, but whatever. And they provide additional perspectives, anecdotes that add layers to the already rich tapestries of his professional wrestling journey. Could be wrestlers, managers, iconic personalities, and they will contribute to the nostalgic atmosphere of the event. Spoiler alert, no fellow wrestlers, no managers, no iconic personalities appeared to contribute additional perspectives or anecdotes, which sucked because I knew they had Eric Bischoff on the tour, so I just assumed they'd have Eric Bischoff as the special guest. And I'm aware that it says may, but to me, it's just a blatant, dishonest, carny tactic to advertise that and not have it, not a fan. A funny moment was when Bret asked the crowd, who's that German guy who chops everybody? Some people in the crowd yelled, Gunther, and he got a massive pop. Bret just immediately started burying Gunther and silenced the crowd. It was so awesome because I'm not a fan of Gunther, and I love seeing people switch up depending on their surroundings. That's something you'll never catch me doing. Bret referenced his book a few times, and he's really proud of the work that he put into it and the accuracy on all the details. You know, he's real confident that he's real accurate in the details, and it was all very truthful and from the heart, no pun intended. And we found out all creative behind the Hitman character, from the pink and black, the excellence of execution and the Hitman moniker, the glasses, the signature boots. You know, no one had those boots like Bret. None of it was WWE's creation. All of that was Bret's own original ideas, so that was pretty awesome. SoCal Val reminds the crowd several times, have your questions ready for Bret. However, when it was time for the Q&A, people asked to put their hand up to ask a question. This mic man, we'll call him, selected one, and then the questions were volleyed between fan, SoCal Val, fan, SoCal Val, fan, SoCal Val. We only had the opportunity to raise our hand if we wanted to answer questions just that one time when that initial crowd member was selected, and that's it. We never had another chance, and I never got to ask a question. The questions were about his hockey team, crazy stalker stories, and how do you put a match together, like real lame, boring stuff. By far the worst question was the last question, and it was someone who was introduced to the crowd by the mic man as a member of the Ballarat City Council, and they asked, what advice would you give aspiring pro wrestlers, which to my chagrin was already answered by Bret during the show. So not only was this person like not a Bret Hart fan, not a paying customer because their ticket would have been comped, but they also weren't paying attention to Bret when he spoke. By the way, the advice to aspiring pro wrestlers was, if you want to be a wrestler, learn to wrestle. Luckily, one person asked a good question, which was the highlight of the day, and it was the highest moment of his career. Without a doubt, head and shoulders above the rest, like easily Bret's highest moment of his career was knocking out Vince. Bret said that he'd like his story turned into a TV series or a movie, and with all the ups and downs, highs and lows, triumphs and tribulations that he experienced, I think it has the potential to be like excellent, riveting viewing. They could do something really special with that. My overall grade for Hitman, A Sunday with Bret Hart, presented by Oceanic Pro Wrestling and Starrcast, I got to give it a 4 out of 10. I got to give it a 4 out of 10. And I got to give it a 4 out of 10. After the show, I was disappointed with missing out on the meet and greet, not getting a question in the Q&A, not having the watch along as promised, not having special guests, and also the TBA being cancelled without any notification, not to mention my seats being like half a dozen rows further back than it said that I purchased on the floor plan. I wanted to voice this somewhere, and then I thought, man, I'll just make this video. Mic man, as I was leaving, the mic man asked me, did you enjoy the show? And you could tell when he asked me, he wasn't asking me to hear my feedback. He just wanted compliments. He was just fishing for compliments. So I had to tell him all this stuff, and he just was like, it wasn't any help. And he started flaunting how amazing the next guest on the tour will be, but he can't tell me who it is. And I'm like, dude, don't even open your mouth then. Like, what the hell? This is just one big disappointment. But I've taken an educated guess, and I think I know who the next special guest of the next OPW tour will be, but I can't tell you guys. Just tricking, I believe it will be Sting. And if you thought I had fond memories watching Bret Hart growing up, that's nothing compared to the memories I had watching the icon Sting. However, after this event, you got to give me a free ticket where I get to meet Sting If it's not Sting, don't worry about it, and I really don't expect to be compensated. And don't get me wrong, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for someone like me to see Bret on stage and hear him talk firsthand. But after all these points I've made, it's the only way I'll give Oceanic Pro Wrestling another shot. If you've made it this far, thank you for taking the time to listen. I appreciate it. I have much more I'd love to share with you guys. So please drop me a like and a subscribe if you aren't. I'm almost at 100 subs. Let's go. Appreciate you. Peace out. Bye.